everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we'll be setting up my July plan with me, and for this month I wanted to do kind of a bright and fun theme, so I used the setup from my last bullet journal as kind of my inspiration for this month. I absolutely love the floral theme, which was pink and purple last time, but I kind of decided to change it up a bit, so for this theme I decided to make it a bit brighter and used orange and yellow. I think the warmer colours also fit well with the camel bullet journal as well, so I decided to use these colours. But yeah, as you can see, this month's bullet journal is in a different bullet journal. I decided to move into a new bullet journal as a bit of kind of like a mid-year refresher, so if you'd like to see how I set up this bullet journal, I'll have the video linked in the description below. So to start out with, I basically used the Pentel sign pen to do the calligraphy lettering, and you guys all know this is one of my favorite calligraphy pens to use just because the tip is flexible enough but also firm enough for control. So yeah, this is definitely one of my favorite calligraphy pens. And yeah, basically I decided to do kind of like mimic the spread that I kind of had for my setup for my last bullet journal, kind of just because July is like the fresh start, so I decided to do Hello July, and then for the lettering I just filled it in with little stars and kind of flowers and leaves and things. And I find that this effect looks best when you kind of fill up all the letters, because then when you erase the pencil or whatever you had before, it will just be like the letter itself. So that's definitely something that to keep in mind. If you don't have enough kind of elements in there, once you rub out the pencil line, it might not really look like July. So yeah. Moving on, I decided to add some shadows just so the lettering looked a bit bolder and kind of more cohesive with the word hello in terms of colour. So some of the drop shadows were definitely wrong. Like J and U both look kind of odd, but yeah. On the other side, I just have my quote page, and then for this month I decided to keep it pretty simple, and I think it's just a nice reminder and kind of like a boost of motivation and affirmation that when things get tough, to just kind of calm down, take a deep breath, and that I've got this. For the calendar page, I decided to use tissue paper since I really enjoyed how that looked back in my spread for May, and so for this month I kind of adopted something similar. I was picking between using either the yellow tissue paper or the pink tissue paper, but I ended up going for pink just because I think that gave it a bit more variation and made it look a bit more interesting, and also softened the colour palette, which I quite liked. To glue the tissue paper, I just used the Kokyo dot liner, which is one of my favourite tape glue dot things to use. I don't really like glue sticks just because the glue gets all over my hand and then it gets super sticky and then it's just a mess, so I just use this one since it keeps everything kind of mess free. But yeah, from experience I realized that using the dot liner on the actual paper of the bullet journal was a lot better than trying to get the dot glue tape thing to stick on the tissue paper, just because the tissue paper was really easy to tear. So that's just something to keep in mind if you decide to recreate the same spread. As you can see here, I kind of changed my mind halfway through. So originally I wanted to do the whole calendar spread in that kind of darker gold orange color, but I realized that that didn't really work very well, just because it would be very streaky when I layered it. So I ended up switching to the zebra mild liner, but then I realized that there was quite a big color difference between the two, which I didn't really like. So to kind of make it look less like a mistake, I just chose some random dates and used the darker color, and then for the rest of them I just used the zebra mild liner, which was a lot quicker process. Moving on, I have my social media and brain dump page, and in the past I used to have both of these pages on like one page, but I just found that that didn't work very well because I needed more space. So for this month I decided to have them on their own separate pages so that there was more room that I could like write down things for different ideas, and also to-do list or like random things would just go on my brain dump page if I didn't have the weeks planned out beforehand. Next, I have my July playlist spread, and this has quickly become one of my favorite spreads to do. I didn't actually do this spread before, I think May. That was when I first started doing this, but I think it's really interesting when you look back on the previous month to see the songs that you've been listening to on repeat. Yeah, so that's something I quite like about the spread, and also the whole album covers and everything. It just looks super aesthetic. A few of the songs I chose for this month were the same as last month, just because they've been on repeat a lot and I still really enjoy them, so I decided to include them in my July playlist as well. After that, I just used a kneaded eraser, which is basically a little bit like blue tack, I'd say. It just kind of takes the lead off rather than, like it's still kind of an eraser, but it just doesn't like fully rub out the lead, if that makes sense, so you can still kind of see it, but I just decided to rub it out a bit since the orange and the yellow are quite light colors, so if I didn't really rub out the pencil lines, they might come through, and I didn't really want that, so yeah, I just went over with a kneaded eraser to kind of make the lines a bit lighter, so when I went over the top of the color it wasn't as obvious. I basically use the same colors as the kind of color scheme overall, which is like the orange and then the kind of gold and the yellow, which I decided to add since there wasn't really enough colors to like original colors, so I just added in a lighter yellow into the mix, and then I kind of quite like that as well since it brought in kind of like the yellow from the album cover from Butter. So yeah, that's basically what I did, and then I just wrote the song title and then the artist underneath. I was debating on whether to add the little like play and pause and skip buttons, but I decided that it might look a bit too cluttered, so I ended up not doing that. On the page next to it, I have my reflection page. A few of you have asked me before what I do kind of with this page, but basically it's kind of like a journal or like a diary. So instead of me like writing something every day, which I usually forget about, I just kind of wait until the end of the month to kind of write a summary of what happened and the highlights and kind of like, I don't know, the low points and things like that, or what I'm stressed about or what I'm excited about, that type of thing. I usually find that one page is enough, but sometimes if that month some exciting things happen, I'll kind of add a few more pages at the end of the month, or if I haven't written anything for like the coming weeks, I'll just have that as my kind of reflections page, and then after that I'll add weekly spreads. Moving on to the weekly spread, this is kind of like my favorite layout that I've found, since it kind of combines the daily to-do list, the kind of like weekly overview type thing, the habit trackers, and also a kind of running to-do list. And I just find having events like a list of days for events during the weekly spread's really helpful, because sometimes I just forget to look at the calendar, or I don't look at the calendar, or something like that, and I'll just forget that certain things are happening each week. So having that kind of on each of the weekly pages is really helpful for me. And also the habit trackers, because I kind of got rid of my habits trackers page just because I've realized I just never use it. So having it kind of on the weekly pages kind of reminds me of the habits that I want to kind of create. The washi tape I'm using now is also partly the reason I wanted to do this theme, just because I really wanted to use this washi tape, and the color scheme worked perfectly with the yellow and the orange. For this spread, I also kind of included a running to-do, just because I find that during the holidays sometimes it's just easier to have kind of like a list of things you want to get done within 1 week, but you don't know what day you want to get certain things done, if that makes sense. Whereas like during school, usually it's more like set, and you kind of know like, oh, these are the tasks I have to accomplish tonight for school tomorrow, or things like that. Whereas during the holidays, your time's kind of more flexible, so I just kind of find that this system works a bit better for me. Before we get into the reveal, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and also turn on post notifications. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!